Hello and welcome to One Talk Show, which broadcasts on OROMIA11 weekly. Today we have a special guest from city of Minneapolis who is running for re-election for city of Minneapolis Ward 1. His name is Kavin Reich, and he's with me, and we will discuss about local politics, and city government, how it functions, and then he starts his campaign for re-election. So I will bring him to you. So hopefully you will gain some knowledge about how the city government functions. Welcome.
Thank you, and thank you for having me in this beautiful studio.
Thank you. So to start our conversation, tell me your background in early childhood education experience and what you are expecting right now.
Yeah, thank you for that question. Yeah, I grew up here in Minneapolis. I was born in Minneapolis, predominantly growing up in Northeast Minneapolis, where I currently represent. I went to Edison High School, the local high school. I went on to St. Olaf College, a local college here in Minnesota, to get my bachelor's degree in philosophy and Asian studies. And from there, I did some master's degree work at Hamlin in public administration. One of my jobs prior to being elected was the project director for the Improvement Association of Lower Northeast Minneapolis. Lower Northeast Minneapolis is an area of great diversity, but it also had some challenges in terms of housing stock, pollution, and water quality with the Mississippi River. So my job was to fix those things. And much of my record then and now is to really improve the environment. The economic success story called Central Avenue, with all the great entrepreneurs who came from around the world to make it a great success story for Minneapolis and Northeast. And my job is to make sure that that success continues. Of course, to do that, safety is important. You cannot have a thriving economic street like Central without safety to support not only the businesses but the families who live there.
Oh, thank you. So when is your first time you ran for city council?
Yeah, I've been on the council since 2010. Again, prior to that, I had 10 years working as an improvement director. And since then, I've been the chair of Transportation Public Works, which is pretty much 2/3 of the city. All the infrastructure, the transportation investments, how we move around as a city is part of that. Housing and economic development are my other two responsibilities. And that's to have policies that ensure the growth, but the steady growth on our terms as a city and community.
Oh, okay. So let us give a brief explanation about what does the city council or the whole city, the 13 city council members do? How do you function?
Yeah, our job is to actually create the legislation that sets the rules for how the city operates. We work with the mayor. We basically set up the policies. The mayor approves them. The mayor sets up the budget and the appointments of the department heads, and we approve that. So there's a check and a balance there. The things that are the key primary responsibilities of the city, of course, are our infrastructure that delivers the water, our ability to move around, transportation. We invest in housing, and then, of course, we do all the emergency response, including fire department and the police department.
Where is the geography of Ward 1 in city of Minneapolis?
Yeah, Ward 1 is pretty much all of Northeast Minneapolis, minus a few of the river neighborhoods that are across from downtown. That's Ward 3.
Oh, okay. Let's come to our community, the community I belong to. Mm-hmm. What do you have for us, for someone, Oromo elder who doesn't speak English or who doesn't write English? How do you approach them? How do you provide?
The contacts I've had, many of them I've met that live in apartments near Central Avenue, which of course is the heart of Northeast. And oftentimes I'll see them at their social gatherings in the community rooms. And my approach to them is to basically sit down respectfully and listen. They will give me the insights that I need to hear from their perspective, and then my job is to translate that into the resources that go into community. One of the things I've heard many times is that housing is critical, affordable, accessible, clean housing. And one of my top priorities is to build the housing in Northeast Minneapolis, several hundred units of affordable housing, which have been basically filled up with mostly East African community, including Oromo. And so that's one of the things I've heard loud and clear, and it's a big part of my work. The other thing that they tell me is they want to walk around and feel safe, not just for themselves, but their family. Many of them have a strong sense of family, and safety is critical to the family experience.
A lot of people complain about city of Minneapolis is there are visible inequalities, visible disparities in wealth and in social safety nets we know. And how do you address that? And do you agree there is inequalities within the system, within the socio-economic ecosystem of the city?
There certainly are. The numbers don't lie. The disparities exist. That's not to say we don't have efforts to try to make connections and reduce those disparities, but it's definitely work that we have ahead. And one of the key things that I believe we need to continue to do is to make sure we don't lose our partnerships with other levels of government, including the county, the state, and federal government. We need partnerships to have the resources to meet the demand. The demand is great. Our efforts need to be great as well.
Great. I think you since 2009 you were elected first time, and you have legislated a lot of ordinances, a lot of policies, progressive policies. That's why you won the seat again and again. And what is your most top priorities? Number 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, I would say number one, we need to stabilize public safety. We are approaching crime levels in some of our communities that are as great as the 90s when we were dubbed Murderapolis. We need to change the course. So public safety is a real key responsibility, and we need to perform better. The other thing that I think is very important is the environment does matter. I live in the industrial part of the city. Pollution not only is something about health, but it stops investment. It stops opportunity. Every time we clean up land, it's been done for housing or economic development, which creates jobs. Everyone tells me they want safety, they want housing, they want jobs. But in my neck of the woods, we have to clean up the pollution first. And that's a very top priority still. The other one's an interesting one. We've had a lot of success in Northeast Minneapolis. It's now a cool part of town. It used to be challenged, but now it's very desirable. What that can mean, the people who have made it great, who call it home for many years, but have made Central Avenue one of the desirable streets in the whole community, they can get priced out. So the diverse business people, the East African people who've made Central Avenue one of the great streets, will find themselves being rented out. My goal is to make policies that stabilize Central Avenue. One of the things that we just passed was to call certain streets East Lake Street, West Broadway, Franklin Avenue, and Central Avenue, where we have these diverse entrepreneurs, to call them an important part of the city and protect them. How we do that moving forward is work to be done, but at least it's on the books as something we will do.
Great. Again, thank you. To follow up with that, recently there are in the city of Minneapolis and St. Paul, violence is up. And there is, I believe and I know firsthand, there is a mistrust between the law enforcement, between the police and the general public, especially the minorities or the marginalized people, African Americans and other immigrants have suspicion of police and they don't trust. And how do you approach that? How do you build trust? And there are other groups which are currently campaigning to defend the police. And how do we address those issues and then safety and security can be confirmed within our neighborhoods?
It's a very good question and a very true challenge we have. Obviously, we need safety and we need the professionals that provide that safety, but they can't really even do their job well if there isn't that connection and trust with community. And I believe trust is something that is earned. It's not just given. And I think trust is accumulated by real contact, meaningful contact with people who are actually from the community. By statute, we cannot force people to be from Minneapolis who serve in public safety, but the chief has created a system where you can get points in the hiring process if you are connected to community. Do you live here? Do you worship here? Do you have family here? Do you volunteer here? What is your connection to this place? We'll give you points in the hiring process. And the last cadet class actually reflected that it's more diverse. If the people feel connected to the community and the community feels connected to the people that they meet, it's human nature. They will want to build the trust. Yeah. If we do not do those efforts, it will not happen.
Yeah, that's great. And you stated that your ward is a mostly industrialized area. What's your view on unions?
Well, unions play a role when they are there to protect the worker rights, to get the good wages. They can develop a system of check and balance to make sure that both sides of the equation, the people who own and the people who make the product, can come together in a sort of fair way. If anything goes outside of that sort of relationship, I don't know what the use is. But that relationship has built the middle class, and I think it will be important, particularly as we invite new communities who want to become part of the American dream to become part of that economic stratosphere.
So you support the $15 minimum wage?
Correct. Yes, definitely did that.
Okay.
One of the key things, though, before we did the policy, it's one thing to do a policy, it's another thing to do it right. And we wanted to make sure that the small business people, their issues and their concerns were heard and not just lumping them in with big major corporations. Their needs were different, and we created accommodations based on their expression of those needs.
Yeah, you already touched upon the law enforcement. Do you have any strategy to reform the law enforcement?
Yeah, I think one of the key things is to build on what we've already been doing with the new sort of health response. We tripled the budget for the Office of Violence Prevention, which creates a health response to some of these situations. And yes, we need to do more coordination and we need to expand that. But right now, the fact that the director of that new department and the chief are working together, to me, that's the sign that we can build a system around that. It can't just be two really strong individuals. The system needs to be that in place where no matter who the leadership is, that is how they do their business. And that's what we're going to build towards.
You already launched the re-election campaign.
Mm-hmm.
So how far did you go in fundraising and public engagement? And did you hold any town hall meetings with your residents?
Absolutely. Yeah, we had several sort of fundraisers to make the connection with the neighbors and have the conversations. And we've had several fundraisers, all of them very successful. Our fundraising has outpaced any of my opponents by a factor of 3, 4, or 5. So we're very healthy in that respect. And the people who particularly are very invested in making Northeast work for working people, they've rallied around my campaign. I'm very proud when I walk down Central Avenue, I see my support. When I go to the communities of color, I see the support. And that's because they don't want someone to talk for them, they want someone to work for them. They do not need a symbol, they need results. And that's what I deliver.
That's great. Again, I take you back to our community, our marginalized communities, immigrants, African Americans, probably some of the new immigrants especially, they are disadvantaged because of the language barriers, skills barriers. There are, they have some transferable skills, but sometimes the system, kicks them away from the labor market. And how do we address that? How do you reach out to these marginalized communities?
Well, basically, I go to where they convene, be it at the different YMCA areas. I know where they live in their different apartments. I'm no stranger to those spaces. And again, I come, I sit down, I listen. And then my job is to hear what they're asking for and how can the city can deliver in those areas. And again, what I hear is they want to feel safe when they walk to the park, but they also want to have the park be something that they can use, not just for recreation, but as educational opportunity. One of the things I worked with some of the East African mothers was to take a building that the YMCA wasn't using for homework. They were like, why can't we use this building for homework? And of course, that is a basis, education is the strongest basis for empowerment and advancement. And so, of course, I wanted to help in that arena. Again, the schools also need to be responsive to the communities that go through there. They need to be meaningfully educating and connecting them to not just jobs, but careers, and feel confident that they can move forward that way. No parent wants to see their children not have the best opportunity. Mm-hmm. And even though we don't have direct control of the schools, I know how important it is, and I go out of my way on my own time to make those connections too.
Thank you. And I think the most grassroots level of the government, elected government, is the city government. And we want Minneapolis or other Minnesota cities to be livable cities. Mm. And how do you address those issues like parks, public parks, and other amenities for your neighborhood or for the residents to have active living?
Mm. Well, one of the first things I recognized, and this is even before I was elected, some parks seem to have more stuff than others. Mm-hmm. I really feel that every park should be top-notch. And so I worked with my partners, particularly the neighborhoods that are in lower Northeast, the more industrial older part, where our communities live. I said, these must be not just good, they must be the best parks. And we must work together to improve them. The other things I would say in terms of recreational activity, we are the city of water, right? And we have many lakes, and we have some beautiful stretches of the river. The stretch in north and northeast has much work to do. I want to make that a world-class experience so the people in my community can walk to the river and go, what a beautiful, wonderful, blessed thing. Right now, it's got some parts that are good, some that might need much work. And it's a point of pride for us to have just as much water amenity and experience with nature as any other part of the city.
Oh, are you part of the Mississippi River Trail?
Yes.
Does that pass in your ward? Oh,
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and I actually serve as the chair of the Board of Commissioners on the Mississippi Water Management Organization, which is basically the organization that raises money to improve water quality in our communities and to protect the river. It's one of my big missions.
That's great. Taking back you to the campaign. So what is your next plan?
Well, I will continue to do what I've been doing. I'll have one more fundraiser, but the real important thing is to talk to people directly. I've probably talked to thousands of people at the doors, myself personally, and of course my team is out there taking notes. I do phone calls as follow-up, and it's the communication that has really given me sort of wind in my sails. When I talk to people, on the internet, it seems like everyone's really angry and divisive and simplistic. When I talk to people directly, they're comprehensive, they're thoughtful, they have actually very great insights. And so having those direct communications with people has really given me faith in people. And it's also been wind in my sails for my campaign.
Yeah, great. Minneapolis is the most diverse city of the state of Minnesota, I believe. Comparing with St. Paul, I think I saw some labor market information. And I think Minneapolis is better inclusive than the sister city. And so after the campaign, so when is the election and how do they vote?
Yeah, so the election will be Tuesday, November 2nd. You can vote by going to your polling place directly. You can also sign up to do early voting through our clerk's office at the city of Minneapolis. Either way works.
Okay.
I vote the day of because I like to see my neighbors, but some people like the convenience of the mail-in.
Do you have the mail-in option?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. The city of Minneapolis clerk's office has all of that.
Okay. Do you have any worries about election integrity, which is a national issue currently?
In the state of Minnesota, we have the highest voter participation. We've been analyzed and reanalyzed, and I would say Secretary Simon has proven that we are a very, very verifiable voting system. I do not have any fear about the system.
Okay, this is my favorite question I ask everybody of my guests is, what worries you when you go to bed?
What worries me when I go to bed? Well, it's usually, did I forget something? And so you have your list of things to do in that day, and I'm like, did I forget something? And then sometimes I dream that I did, but then I check and I didn't. But yeah, it's usually, did I finish my list?
Okay. Anything I miss?
I would say that this is a time where people can really command what they believe they want and not have to go about the themes that you might hear on the news or on the internet. People can speak their own voice. They can talk as a community. And I think what politicians need to do is get into that space and be more present in that space because it's more real, in my opinion.
Okay, that's great. Do you have any experience with Oromo communities? Have you ever tasted the food and?
Yes, I've had the pleasure of having some of the food, and the tea is particularly good. For whatever reason, you guys know how to make great tea.
Okay. Coffee? Are you a coffee lover?
I do like coffee, but the tea has really kind of blown me away how good it is.
Okay. Okay, I will give you a chance to address to my community, to the Oromo community, about your re-election campaign.
Well, thank you for this opportunity. And I do invite folks to check out my website, kavinreich.org, to see more specific information on my policies. But it's been my honor to serve the East African community, which has made Northeast Minneapolis one of the most wonderful places in all of the state of Minnesota. It is my honor to serve you, to be a part of your success story, and please vote in November 2nd, Kavin Reich. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Kevin, and I wish you good luck in your campaign to re-elect for Ward 1. And my audiences who live in Ward 1 hopefully will vote for you.
Oh, well, my pleasure, and thank you for having me.
Thank you. With this, we come to the end of our today's conversation. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.